last game of the night and what could be considered potentially the best. We've got two T2 teams, one of them definitely fighting to be looked upon as much better, and a newer team that I think all of us might have it in our hearts to root for. It's going to be ARIAL Rise versus WILDCARD ACES. A lot of roster moves on both of these teams that we'll get into in just a bit.
Yeah, both of these teams have had a lot going on with, Mike W leaving ARIAL Arise inside of Element 3 during Phase 3. They've had to deal with that, and then the loss of Poison as well, who has decided to step back. And so right now, it's going to be Veleno filling in for him as Kiru has filled in or taken the place of Mike W. So I'm not sure if this is like the permanent fifth or if they're just kind of using this as kind of like a trial by fire for Veleno. But nonetheless, it should be interesting to see how this kind of affects the way they have to play, especially since Poison was the main IGL, and now we're not sure who's doing it at the moment, but someone else is going to be picking up that calling.
Yeah, we had some assumptions. Could be Enrio, maybe Snake. There's not exactly a clear person we can point to, and I wonder if we'll actually see that in the game, because sometimes it's very obvious when a team looks very lost. On the other side of the coin, WILDCARD ACES, they've also got a couple of changes. I believe Dame is in for Melted, so that is the only change. And center coming from Karn & Co., which, you know, I talked about him when we were on that. He didn't have the best of tournaments, but hopefully that can change as the team changes.
Now, this is a very different roster from those of you who watched Element 3 will be familiar with. But we're going to see Teddy and Kronk come back, which means that the best Uplay, or the best in-game name in T2, which that being Kronk, is back. Now, you can fight me on that one on Twitter. And that is... I mean, there's a lot that's changed for this roster, and thus the playstyle is going to be very different, whereas ARIAL is going to have a lot of fragments of its former self. WILDCARD ACES isn't going to have anything that ARIAL can kind of look to and say, like, this is how this team plays, this is what they like to do, because, I mean, effectively, it's a completely different roster than it was before.
I don't, despite knowing almost all the players on both sides, I don't have any preconceptions on how this game is going to go, because I just don't know how well all of the players are going to mesh, especially on WILDCARD, and then the IGL situation over on ARIAL. We'll take a look at the maps, because obviously those are going to be pretty important. Arena, still fingers crossed for Lair, but I don't think we're at that stage where a lot of teams are comfortable yet, because it was definitely iffy on whether or not Lair was going to be added compared to, you know, potentially Nighthaven Labs, given how Lair was a little bit unpopular. As we will get Clubhouse, Andrew is yelling at his VMix, but definitely Clubhouse being once again our map to go to. Don't worry about the logos. It's act.
Yeah, interesting rebrands coming out from both teams here. Unfortunately, it's just some tomfoolery happening with the VMix over on our producer's end, which occasionally does happen. As I mean, it's T3, it is a circus. That is kind of what you expect by this point. But Clubhouse, yet again, an interesting place for both of these teams to go to. I mean, it's the map we casted previously, and it's also one that is going to default enough that we can kind of see both teams' like true fundamental abilities shine through.
Yeah, I mean, we saw what could happen on Clubhouse. I think this will be a very different game due to the skill level on both sides and the cohesion as well. Despite my initial questions about it, they're still very good players, and they know what they're doing when it comes to the default. I'm excited, because if this is going to be the rosters, even in melted in for Dame, then we got to get a good look at them. We got to see how Veleno's going to do on air. We got to see how Kira's going to do on Element. We got to see whether the changes that WILDCARD ACES did are going to actually work out.
We have seen a little bit of Kiru in for Mike W. He has been... I mean, he was on the roster in the Blitz Gaming Series stuff that concluded last week, so it's not going to be entirely unknown as a factor for this roster. Although I'm more interested to kind of see how Veleno does and how they do without Poison, just because, I mean, Poison was like the hard support, like anchor player, and that's not really what Veleno does. And as well, he's also not going to be IGLing like Poison was. So we'll just kind of have to see how that ends up
I mean,
coming out here.
Veleno did do good on SSG Academy before the he's not 18 stuff came out, but it has been a pretty long time since then. I mean, when you're talking about like tournament and everything, so whether or not he still had that staying power that he did when he was on SSG Academy, and whether or not he can work in a system that ARIAL Arise has built, I think those are the questions that I'm definitely asking. Getting through the ban phase, nothing crazy. Ying ban is new. Kaid ban is new as well. So that does leave up Tubero, does leave out Azami.
Yeah, the kid being knocked off the board means that getting hatches is going to be a lot less of a hassle. We kind of saw that being leaned into on the previous map with mostly Unks bringing Kaid, specifically Sta bringing Cade, and just kind of keeping those hatches closed for a little bit longer and forcing the pick of attack, which isn't a bad operator for this map necessarily, but there are definitely other operators that you would rather bring in a majority of cases. So ARIAL have just decided that they don't want to have to bring that Thatcher on the attack, and they're perfectly comfortable without the Cade on the defenses. And plus, they might want to lean into the Azami if they play something like CCTV.
Yeah, CCTV, I mean, even with the Azami, I talked about the Wamai changes. I still think teams are going to prefer your gym, bedroom, your basement. Overall, they'll still retry these two sites over simply because CCTV has a lot of just advantages toward the attack. And ARIAL Arise did ban that Monty, which if you do leave Monty up, it's kind of like where if you left a zombie up, you would play Rafters. If you leave Monty up, you can't play Rafters, which means you can't play CC. So just kind of another op bans dictate the site presence. Interesting to note that Snake actually wasn't found on the drone. It was shot, but I don't really know exactly where he is.
Probably have to control in game line. It has being played towards this main hall as well as a ton of off-site pressure being brought out by ARIAL. And so now WILDCARD is looking to take control of this round and then kind of use that to start poking and prodding at the site, set things up, and then eventually look to have the control they need in order to go for some sort of execute. With Inrio potentially taking some fights here, which is actually going to be Veleno taking the first damage. Because that's quite this player that's on the bottom of main stairs.
A lot of these hatches getting opened. You see the double Goyo canister, and then you pivot over the triple wall, which is reinforced with 3 bandit batteries. It's going to be Kiru striking first onto Rebus. Down goes your Ash, but then leaves your Buck. So very free and able to destroy the floor with not a lot keeping him away from that. You just have the 2 impacts of Veleno, who's clearly not going to be wasting that on a Buck trying to get rid of the floor. There's no C4s, there's nothing. So all that ARIAL Arise have for time wasting and destruction is just going to be those Goyo canisters on the doorway and the 2 smoke canisters now that one just got used.
Less than a minute left here for WILDCARD to get into the site. They do get a good pick to do so as Kiru is taken out by Center, who might be looking to drop the hatch here and go for a plant, which he is able to do. Now the rest of WILDCARD has to cover him, however, which so far does not go according to plan, but he does get that diffuser down, even if it does cost him his life. Good control first team to have, especially with Teddy's bringing into the site. Getting a 2K. Moving everything up to Brios and Inrio. Teddy, however, is on so low HP, but it's not going to matter so far. Inrio has to fight a 1 versus 1 here against a full health Kronk. Like 13 seconds left to get on this diffuser. Kronk's gonna wait it out and force him, just waste this time. Not let him get an inch. But eventually he's gonna get that kill with Wildcard Aces taking that first round.
It's such a mind game right there. Kronk, I think Kronk could not have played that better. Immediately peaking as soon as the aerial rise defender got like halfway done. That's enough to reset about 4 seconds. And with the time remaining on the diffuser, you've got nothing. You have to just constantly play this cat and mouse. I was worried that dying to get the diffuser down was a potential loss, but Teddy just hopping back and forth in between the site, you can't take that into account. And if Aerial Rise could have actually dealt with Teddy, I think they win the round, but they didn't. They let the planter go down, they let Teddy wreak some havoc, and they let Kronk just sit unabated up on that first floor to take down the lone player trying to get the diffuser. It's a good attack from Wildcard Aces. I think you do have a lot to work for. Definitely not perfect. There were a lot of flaws. Can be losing that initial first pick, but still, you get the win. I think that's what matters for most.
Yeah, Teddy was in Element 3, kind of so he was good at, that was often shut down by teams like Karn & Co., but something that was still very valuable for them in many of those games was the fact that Teddy was kind of the guy who would get into, like, the weird positions and get a kill. Kronk is going to get that opener. Kiru goes for the spawn peek, is entirely unsuccessful. And he's playing a Warden, which isn't a ton of utility loss, but given that there is a Blitz on the board for center, they're going to be missing that. Reap is getting killed up before he can use any of his calls. Is going to be great for Aerial Rise, but just still that unnecessary pick onto that Warden with the Blitz on the board, that's something that Aerial could be hurting for.
Hero's going to constantly be doing that. You always just have to expect that. Like, it is just how he plays. And I mean, so far, you started off with actually a kill onto Q. That's great. Just, don't even let the tree grow. Just stop it right where the seed gets planted. Center is just going to run on in. Not even hop over, let the C4 explode, then potentially make a little bit of a play. But already, Wildcard Aces, they have to, even though they can't technically find the angle onto Inrio, just one more melee will get the job done. And Wildcard Ace is a much, much better attack the second time around. You can see Center is pretty happy about that.
Yeah, very good job of getting that control that they wanted, and then kind of working that into those picks that they needed, and isolating the Aerial Arise defenders from one another, I think most importantly there. No one was properly able to back anyone else up, as there was just kind of pressure everywhere on the map they had to account for. And that leads to several dominoes falling in a row, leaving Inrio on 2 HP, sitting inside a bathroom with an angry man with a flash shield running at him. That's not a situation you want to find yourself in. And Aerial decided that it's a bad enough situation to find themselves in that they are instead going to go over to CCTV, going a full site rotation, even though they haven't won anything yet, not looking to repeat anything until round is won so far.
I do think they could try basement again. Gym definitely was a wash, but basement, you know, fine tune up some things. I mentioned how Wildcard didn't really have a great attack. Initially got that open quick. Like, there's a lot to work off of on the basement, but I mean, CCTV isn't awful. It's not the extremely dominant site that it was back in its heyday, you know, before Azami, before the defender meta really made itself known. But it's still enough where teams will go for it, and you can see Veleno, helped by some keeper barriers, no ACOG, instead of having the AUG. Hopefully that, if you are a fan of Aerial Rise, they can get themselves on the board by holding this very pivotal Raptors area.
Yeah, this is usually the offside here. It's not typically one you're going to see until the two primary bomb sites, which would be basement then gym bedroom, exhausted. But we're going to see it being brought out here as kind of the last-ditch attempt for Aerial to claim something in the first quarter of this game. Kiru, though, is claimed by Teddy as the first pick of this round, and that's his second time being taken out in a row off of an aggressive play. And he is playing the castle, which isn't a ton of utility to lose, but if Wildcard have this consistent opening pick they can rely upon, that's bad news, especially with that pick that Teddy gets onto Brios, trying to get the refrag.
It's patience as well, just holding that angle. Now you have the player in Rafters and two players that kind of hold up on site. You do your job as the attack. The amount of time that you have remaining should be pretty darn easy. I mean, the Conwa is open without any resistance. Center can afford to use two Selmos on making it the biggest hole ever, but Inrio peeks, drops Center, and with Snake making himself known as well, suddenly it changes to a 3v3. As Teddy is going to use that crossbow to flush some of these players out, but is that enough for Wildcard to actually make a play off of it? The Firebolt hits absolutely nothing. Teddy changes onto the smoke, doesn't use it. Wildcard, you see them kind of sputtering here, looking for something to get done.
And they do get the first piece done. Reapus gets that pick onto Anrio. Tries to get into the snipe with the Dread Mines, making that a little bit more difficult. Sniping to get out as well, along with Valeno. Dame with the cross into the site, gets the final two picks. And Wildcard go up 3-0 as they dominate this game so far.
Yeah, the longer this game's gone on, the less highlights I think there's been, the less high points there have been for this Aerial Rise defense. You see them holding a lot of these angles. I don't know where Kiru died in that round. I mean, obviously we know that Brios exactly right here, just peeking that, boom, it's taken care of. You have some of these other players just pushing forward where they shouldn't, holding angles where they shouldn't. I think it was whoever the Fenrir was holding that angle. Done. Dusted. Everybody on Wildcard Aces is ready for surprise angles that Aerial Rise are holding. So when you do have good fraggers that like to take these very forward angles like Snake, like Kiru, when that's gone, what do you have? You don't have Mr. P anymore. We don't know who's IGLing, and so far the lack of an IGL seems to be killing this team. The only player who has more than one kill is Inrio, who probably should be the one player who shouldn't be leading in kills.
Yeah, normally we expect players like Brios and Snake and Kiru to be very proficient in these frags. Kiru especially, since he's been involved in every opening duel so far. He hasn't won a gunfight in this game actually so far. The first kill in the first round he got was off of a Nitro cell. And since then, he's just been quiet. He's just been a guaranteed opening pick or Wildcard at the beginning of these rounds, which so far, he hasn't exposed himself, although he is looking to potentially get aggressive up main stairs. Snake is up inside of Logi as well, so if these positions aren't known to Wildcard, that could be dangerous. But with the Blitz, if they read into there being enough offsite presence, that could also just be a quick run onto the site, which could lead to someone like Snake retaking.
You're going to stay here. You're going to peek. Does. A little bit too late, but he's been punished for this essentially twice. You stop spawn peeking. Because there is a little bit of info. Definitely know now and will not risk anything. Makes a mad dash back into the site. So do spot one more player up on the second floor. Snake is still in Logi. As most of Wildcard, they seem to be prepping for a bit of a dirt push combined with a potential church drop. Center pushes forward. One smoke canister will be deployed that will stop the shields right where they stand, but it will only stop the bleeding, not fix the cause, as Snake finally makes himself known, gets that opening pick for Aerial Rise, as the attack has to be left sputtering what to do about the roamer.
Snake's off-site, which is going to make that they can't really comfortably operate anywhere. The shield is alone inside of dirt as well, which means Enemy can kind of bully him with this utility, but I think it's pushed up a little bit farther than the defense would anticipate him, which could potentially be dangerous. There's less than a minute left, though, for Wildcard to make this work. With the final smoke canister, he's going to get killed off. Snake getting a kill as well off-site, leaving everything up to Reapus and Kronk. Make that just Reapus, who's going to make his way down blue. See if he can find any potential kills But so far, no one wants to overexpose themselves on Arial. They want to close this out. Make sure things don't get too out of control. Multiple angles to contest. Has to choose the right one at the right time. So far, unsuccessful. Rios ends up getting that kill. It's going to be WILDCARD who lose their first round of the series as Arial gets not quite a flawless, I don't think, but still a very good round.
It was a flawless. So Aerial Rise. I mean, hell of a way to bounce back, right? First you have Snake, which clearly WILDCARD just failed at droning out that player. And he knows exactly when to strike, as most of WILDCARD's attack is actually focused on the actual site, given the fact that center and everybody else pushing through dirt getting close to an actual execute. And WILDCARD worrying about any other player is far from their mind. It's just the site is that primary focus. And so that's when Snake strikes, makes a huge difference on the round, and it avoids a WILDCARD running away with the lead. It's not fixed by any means. Still got potential 2 other sites that WILDCARD did very, very well on, and this was the site that was the worst for this Aerial Rise defense. So what's the fix? We still got the Mira, still got the Fenrir. It's gotta be being ready for that potential blitz, that potential attack.
Well, I think so far the fix is to not let Kiru just be a guaranteed first pick for WILDCARD, as that's a stat they do very well.
Good fix.
But it's in their favor. But as well, just kind of... I like being more intelligent with how they position themselves is going to be the thing you want to do, which is not what Snake does. He gets picked off by Reapus as he kind of locks himself into the bottom of garage and ends up getting... obliterated, as they say. But oh my god! And then there goes October. Yeah, we get a C4 jump scare. Nonetheless, Kiru, his second kill of the game, both of them off of nitro cells. That brings things even for us here. And it also takes out the Doku before either of her calls could be used, which is a very good sign for Arial thus far.
Oh my god. I was not ready for that. That was like...
my heart can't take that.
That was like Foxy in Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Jumping straight at you from the darkness when you least expect it. I mean, if you want to call Snake a free pick for Arial, Center was far from it, as how did Valeno and Brios... What is going on? How did they take that damage? Brios dies, Valeno at 9 HP, and Aerial Rise, they're left dripping with blood, bruised, still in the round, but very clearly hurt from that initial utility dump coming out from WILDCARD.
I wonder if they were on like a window that had like a recharge blast on it or something?
If so,
they both
that's
took it at like
horrible positioning.
They've inclined to agree there. It is kind of odd that they both took like that damage at the same time, but also like different amounts of damage. Sometimes the other cookie crumbles, however. G4 from Inrio goes out, finds absolutely nothing thus far. Teddy E is going to be downed off screen, and Kiru gets a little bit overzealous, ends up getting killed off. It's now Valeno and Inrio to clutch out this round. Valeno does get one, but he is killed off. All left up to Inrio now in a 1 versus 2. He gets the first one that he needs, but the second and third being a little bit harder to get. They're both going to reposition themselves and get control of that diffuser and look to catch him out here and get in a position where they can play together. They don't want to give Inrio these 1 versus 1s. And this plant going down and Kronk getting aggressive is going to be what gives WILDCARD this round.
It felt like things were going so well for Arial. I don't think we have a replay because I don't think we got exactly what hurt them, but that just was the biggest pothole on the road to success that you possibly could have been given, and for a questionable reason. We do see that initial play with Snake as the drop comes, and WILDCARD a 4-1 lead, potentially going on to 5 as CCTP was still pretty bad for Aerial Arise. I mean, everything just kind of fell apart. Hero went down early, followed by the utility going absolutely wonderful for Wildcard. There hasn't really been a big stopping point besides that one flawless round, which so far seems like a fluke.
I want to get the Mr. P opinion on this game. Personally, I think that'd be an interesting thing to have, just kind of seeing him talk about things from beyond the grave, so to speak, or beyond the active player grave, as currently taking a break for a bit. I also want to see Ariel pull something out of their hat here. This was the game that I personally expected to be the best on the day. Just kind of looking at the 3 games that we were given, and so far, it's more akin to Carnico versus Thrive than anything else here, with Ariel really struggling to keep up with everything that Wildcard is throwing at them. And I think they're really kind of feeling the loss of Poison a lot more than they would have anticipated here, with, I think, a lot of direction missing from the way that they're trying to play these rounds out.
So far, I initially was about to say Aerial Rise hasn't lost anybody, and then Valeno started to take some damage. Firing shots at that from Raptors is such a dangerous game, especially when you hold so much power being in that position. Valeno gets taken out simply just by peeking the player, just hanging outside the main breach. A lot of Aerial Rise's defense just evaporates right in front of them. So they're still getting by. Inrio dodges a lot of bullets. Valeno is still fucking on with all those plays, as Reapus will be that first casualty from Valeno, and that F-Naught is doing so much damage. And so far, Aerial Rise, things seem to be going well for them.
Yeah, Valeno gets 2 before being finished off himself. We have, I believe it was Kiru in an aggressive position for when that smoke cleared on top red, but he doesn't need to reveal himself just yet. Although now the kills have gone the opposite direction, with 2 kills from Center and Dame to bring Wildcard back into the lead here. And they have control of this diffuser even. The HP advantage is, albeit not convincingly, but in the hands of Ariel thus far. But with that numbers advantage and the fact that there is now even more numbers advantage along with that utility, it's killing Snake in a 1 versus 3 here. He has a good position to start this off. He's able to find the first one, but they know where he is now. And again, they still have that diffuser and the cross to prevent him from really doing anything about it.
Oh, 20 HP. The P90 kills you. And Snake, it seemed like he had such a good play. You even see the tracers. Was that through the legs of Dame? If so, that is a killer, because it was absolutely winnable. And Wildcard ACES find themselves up 5-1. And swapping onto the attack, if that defense was poor due to IGLing, Ellie, it's about to get a whole lot worse. Because attacks require structure. They require a purpose and a goal. And if you don't have somebody, or at least you used to have somebody doing that, and that person is gone, and there's nobody really filling that void, you're just going to look lost. And there were parts of Aerial Rise's defense, I think as a whole, they still looked definitely like they were on course, because you can mask that on the defense. It's very individualistic. That cannot happen on the attack. It is plain for everybody to see, clear as day, whether or not you know what you're doing or you are just face checking everything, hoping to find angles to win.
And Wildcard is like, I think quite possibly the worst opponent to get first on a game day when you've just lost your IGL, right? Because they are a team.
All right.
You know. As I was saying, Wildcard are a team that does kind of, sometimes their attacks look kind of like monkeys given access to cars, but there is still a purpose to what they do, and they kind of play into that a lot, being this kind of force that will just kind of run into the defense that they're going up against and make it very difficult to deal with what they're bringing at you. And when you don't have someone to kind of act as the basis for the structure and to kind of minimize things like that from that calling position, it can be very easy for a team like that to be very overwhelming to deal with. And that's what we're seeing so far happening in this game, and especially on Kiryu's end, going 2-6. He's been involved in so many of these opening deaths that ARIAL has suffered, and it's really been hurting them. And he's playing Hibana even. That was the primary hard breach that had been brought by ARIAL to get rid of these hatches, and now they have to be so much choosier with what they open and how they go about this round.
I know it's been a while, but my favorite thing about your metaphor was that it also kind of implied that monkeys can drive cars. Like,
I believe, right?
That it wouldn't be just an absolute dumpster fire, that there's something innate in them that just would know how to, like, turn on the blinker. But
what is Max Verstappen but a bonobo that was given access to a driver's license?
I'm moving on from that. Snake finds an equalizer. That opening kill onto Kiro eventually will mean nothing. But still, you lose Kiro, you lose those breaches, and have to rely on Inrio, which means only 2 of those hatches get open, and now you completely avoid that triple wall walking down main. And it's really just the hatches here on out. You got secret stairs, the bar hatch, the blue hatch, and the main site drop, of which are covered by Aruni Surias and are also covered by magnets. The utility that Wildcard have are going to be really difficult for Aerial Arise, given the time that is still ticking, and yet they find themselves on top. It's Reapus as the impact, doesn't hit. Aerial Arise completely call me an idiot.
What?
And dominate on their attack.
It was kind of like a Rube Goldberg machine almost there from Aerial Arise, where things kind of took a while to get going, but once they did, you could kind of see the vision they were going for. As rapidly those pieces from Wildcard Aces fell in very, very quick succession, as that is really quite an impressive execute coming out from Aerial, even if it did take a long time to get it going, with the bulk, actually all of the heavy lifting that round being done by Snake and Brios. The R4C brothers, if you will, getting all those picks. And that's a great thing to see, especially since we were highlighting that attack without an IGL can be very, very difficult without someone to be the basis for the structure and the system which you use to clear things. It's something that hurts a lot of teams, especially teams that have just lost that piece. But Ariel so far on this half are doing just fine without it.
Well, sample size is 1. Still,
but it's a good start.
It is definitely a good start, given the expectations of without an IGL, how they did on their defense exceeds expectations in that one round. Now you've got to convert once again on the basement. Kira will not get spawn peaked and actually swapped over to the Ace. So I think that is actually for the triple wall. Otherwise, there's some real reason to swap from the Hibana. We have the Inrio's hard recharges as well. Aerial Rise, they've zipped on in, getting open some of the hatches you already see Inrio using. I mean, it's a pretty basic attack so far. Nothing crazy. I mean, Wildcard aren't roaming that much, so you don't really need too much to happen on the side of Aerial Rise.
About a minute has elapsed so far, and the first floor has been taken pretty thoroughly by Aerials. Now they look to set things up for this execute, as well as see if they can get anyone out of position and get that opening pick, which they did do fine without it in that previous round, but it's still really not something they want to let slip. Especially they don't want to let Kiru let it slip before he's able to do anything with those ace charges he has brought. Rios, however, going to get the first pick onto center. That's the Mira being taken down. That's a great start from them. as it also evens up the opening kill count that we have so far in this game. But those hatches being denied by this evil
I don't know.
bar.
That is... Kronk,
That is
the voices are telling Kronk
devious.
to open it up and start firing. Like, you had your chance. You could have done like 15 HP worth of damage, and now it's gone. As ARIAL still collects. It takes down the Maestro, so even if Kronk wanted to open it up, now that the glass was shattered, he can't. It's up to the remaining 3 defenders to get things done. And they have clearly been accounted for as Reapus fires away. Trade is there. At ARIAL Rise, they can play the trade game all they want as Teddy just misses a crucial kill. Bees, fire, Mira, drones everywhere, and Wildcard Aces somehow have to find their way out of it. Teddy does get the kill. That drops the diffuser. Dame for one as well, and suddenly we're in a 2v2. This has changed completely as Teddy does miss a couple shots on full HP. Still some time remaining on the clock for ARIAL Rise to readjust. Does spot the player onto his left. These players are attached, but Snake hits the shot he needs to make sure that ARIAL Rise keeps Wildcard away from that point.
It was really iffy in those final seconds. I almost thought that Teddy managed to take it, but his comrade dying inside of blue could have solidified that for ARIAL Rise, as yet again, they managed to look impressive on this attacking half so far, taking 2 good rounds. One a little bit sketchier than the other, but still a dub in the end. And they also managed to curb that issue of Kiru dying first and get 2 uncontested opening picks for themselves, which didn't lose the round for WildCard by any means, but did force them to play things a little bit more awkwardly for the rest of that round's duration. And it's also forced a slight rotation out of WildCard Aces, as they've now gone over to Gym and Bedroom to look to rectify the way this half is going so far.
Haven't gone here yet. Basement twice. Failed twice. Gym seems to be the next best step on the path to victory, because Wildcard only need 2 right now. I mean, you've got 3 or 4, excuse me, in the path, so 50%. You're in good. Well, even just one of those guarantees overtime and gives you a good bit of breathing room of 3 extra rounds, no matter what. As Kronk attempts a spawn peek, it's a good little melee bullet hole, but ARIAL Rise, the spawn peaks seem to have lessened their impact over time. Hero's not dying, Snake's not dying, Reapus will die over on the red stairs. It's a big opening pick for ARIAL Rise, and now I'm left wondering why Reapus swung that angle. Might not have had the info. I get.
Yeah, it is kind of an odd swing from him, especially being that Islamic, that sniper that you want to stay alive for a good bit of the rounds just to get more of the skibas that he can throw down as time goes on. Kronk potentially going to try to get a refrag, but he's going to get killed off by Kiru as well. And yet again, that's 2 uncontested openers for ARIAL, which is eventually contested by a little bit, but Kiru is on a triple kill this round, and he leaves everything up to Teddy and Dame.
No shot there. Kiru on for a quad. His Dame won't even hit those shots. Not a flawless, but it seems logic is being absolutely destroyed. Defense goes abysmal for ARIAL. They lose one of the most prominent IGLs in all of T2. And we think that onto the attack, it went that bad on defense. Surely the attack without an IGL must be worse. No, it is going so swimmingly. It is stunning that they are winning these rounds this dominantly.
Yeah, it's been going really, really well for them. Again, just so much better than we expected. They've gone from being down 5-1, which looked like they were facing certain death, to 4-5, which is an absolutely recoverable scoreline here. if they're able to continue playing their cards right, to win this regulation, they do have to go flawless on their attacking half, which is something I wouldn't anticipate us seeing, but
That
it is
would
still
be
certainly
shocking.
possible. That would be shocking and also shocking for wildcard aces.
Yeah, I mean,
It would not be a position they want to be in.
gotta win. Win one, guarantee overtime. Gym goes bad, basement goes bad. CCTV, I don't see that going well, given the poor state of the previous two sites, as we did have a player disconnect, waiting to see how long. I hope long, because I mean this night, for how late it started, it's gone pretty quickly. I mean, we had the 7-0, we had the 7-5. Hasn't been too many pauses, but now we're stuck. And as I say that, we're going.
But if the first game had been like a lot closer, probably would have either still been in the second game or just finished it. So as much as I dislike seeing like Karn get like beaten down like he had been, I also really like not casting till 2 in the morning. That was an experience I've had once that I never want to have again.
I've
Love
also
you,
had
Stan.
that once and never
Make me do that again. All right? Unless you're supplying me with a consistent supply of toasted Cheez-Its, I will not cast till 2 a.m. again. That is the line that we're drawing. Yes.
Those are mid. So mid.
If anyone wants to be my new co-caster to replace this current
Like,
one I have, who is being fraudulent,
The only
hit me up on Twitter.
Cheez-Its are like that are good are like the base Cheez-Its, and then like the buffalo wings. I don't know if you've had those ones.
I don't know if I have.
They're good, but you don't really see them in stores all that often.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen those. The snack mix is also pretty good, but that's just kind of like Checkers or Chex Mix's like younger brother that's somehow more successful. Speaking of successful, there is a successful Maverick truck where we are engaging in tomfoolery, talking about snacking choices while the round has been progressing. Almost a minute has gone by. CCTV has been successfully opened up via a beautiful Maverick trick from ARIAL. Well done to him. As now they're going to look to make some progress over towards construction as well as Jacuzzi. And with the fact that ARIAL is bringing this Maverick, it's allowed a lot of the impact that Center and Teddy would have with their operator choices to be lessened. And it's something that ARIAL are really going to appreciate as this round goes on.
I mean, the wall's open. Otherwise, you've already kind of created a little bit of a line in the construction one. Where are we going next? Here strikes onto Dame. So wildcard aces suffer. I believe this is the 3rd out of 4 rounds on Aerial Rice's attack that they've been able to get an opening kill. Hero does fall as Reapus goes to 6 HP. So Aerial Rise, they are finding themselves down in the man count. This has not happened. Or actually, I would say that Hero gets revived. It's even. We're not going too wayward towards wildcard aces, but they have to be careful because with a buck, with a player just inside of that hot barrier, they could be dead to right.
Yes, next going to be looking to get this Logi player out of commission, which so far has been unsuccessful, although there will be a very close call. Senator's just going to look to get out of here completely and fall back to Stash, which is completely hard ground, or back into the spot he was in before. Snake has moved on from this position and isn't actively watching that anymore, and that is a very dangerous position for ARIAL to have to deal with only 25 seconds left in this round.
A lot of their round wins have come from chaotic entries. One player gets another thing, and then the pinch happens. But I don't think they know that the player in CCTV clearly do not. Brios gets down. C4 is thrown, does not connect. Now Aerial Rise, it was going so well. And then the tech pause hit, and Wildcard Aces comes steaming forward with a wave of defensive capability. They find themselves on map and match point, and Aerial Rise have 2 rounds to win before we go to overtime.
It was kind of the reverse of what we'd seen previously with the Chaotic Executes going the way of Wildcard, or with the Chaotic Execute that round going the way of Wildcard, whereas previously that had kind of been Ariel's domain. And now they take advantage of that 5-1.5, they cash it in, and secure overtime at the very least, but they also force Ariel to fight against map and match point for 2 rounds. We have seen them win 2 rounds in a row before, and this is a site that they've won both times before. But Wildcard can relax just a little bit more now that they have this secured, whereas Ariel have to focus in a little bit more as they don't want to let Wildcard fully take advantage of this and just win this game, as they want to start themselves off strong here in this current season of Xenon.
So no CCTP, no gym. It's gotta be the basement, and that is scary. Because Aerial Arise have walked onto that site twice and slapped this ACES team. On to operators that, you know, we haven't seen the Lion too much. Definitely been more of a fringe pick so far, but Valeno has been kind of, I think, hit or miss. He was doing very good going on to the attack, but ever since then he has definitely stagnated, and hopefully he can kind of start to pick it up with that Lion. Kiru dies, that's not good. Valeno dies. Aerial Arise need to find themselves down 2. Hopefully some hero plays can get them out of this.
They have been good at just having someone like Brios walk in, or Snake, get several kills in a row. We don't want to rely on that when you're already down this many bodies. And especially when Brios doesn't really have a gun that's designed to just, like, take multiple fights in a row. You kind of want to be going for really precise shots with that gun he has in his hands right now. Inter makes an attempt onto 1, but they are behind a hard surface, which he is not able to break through. And now Wildcard have just fallen back to the site. They're all kind of huddled together here, with the purpose of that being essentially to just guarantee that Aerial Arise aren't able to just get these isolated picks and then walk away with the round. They have to walk into multiple bodies at once, and that gets worsened with Inrio getting killed off by center. A call goes out, Snake gets a kill off of it, but it's all left up to Brios in a 1 versus 4, which he will not win, as Reapus is the better one in that fight, and that's Wildcard Aces taking the 7-4.
As the adaptation comes from Wildcard, you have to ask, were those initial attack wins good IGL, or was it just the good guns of Air the Rise coming alive? Snake, Brios, very, very good, but was it coordinated enough that you could consistently win attacking rounds? It seems that Wildcard, they made the adaptations, they changed what they need to on the defense, and it was more than enough. Both of those attacking rounds coming out from Air the Rise just did not find anything. They really were just completely dead on arrival. And some of that does come from, I think, Kiru being a very, very big opening pick on a majority of these rounds from Wildcard Aces. He definitely did not have a good game, but most of Aerial Rise had a very, very poor opening, which kind of puts them in an uncomfortable spot. Once you swap sides, you're in a 5-1. You're really fighting from downhill, and it's only a matter of time until Wildcard figures you out.
Yeah, that 5-1.5 is such a... I mean, just any, like, significant round advantage like that is so scary, just because even if you are able to start bringing things back and figuring things out, you only have so much room to work with in those situations before your opponents are able to just close out the little bit of distance they need. And at that point, it's just too late to figure anything out. We did see Aerial Arias start to come alive in the second half and figure things out, but they don't do it early enough. They let Wildcard Aces get too much space in that round count, and they take perfect advantage of it and close it out 7-4, even with those 3 very convincing rounds, which Ariel were able to take away.
Yeah. Well, not the start that Aerial definitely wanted, given the big roster changes that they went through. I think Wildcard, clearly they had it locked down on the attack. really got through every single bit of ARIAL Arises defense. They get the win in the end. We want to take a look at the standings as we've finished everything in this day. Got Group A first. You can see who is on top. It's going to be SSG Academy. They have the one differential round, given that they won 7-4 compared to Fluffy Aimer 7-5. But so far, I mean, you've only got around 4 out of the 7 teams, so we'll see where those other 3, especially a team that may have won a tournament recently, I think they might do well.
Makers? Which, by the way, there's a very funny video on Packers Twitter of just like that warming up for a game day, where he was just like psyching himself up, just you will get swung, just watch it. Very, very funny. The Makers, they're going to be one of the favorites going into this. They've not played a game yet, so stay tuned for that. Neither have Final Form or Team Sesh, so they have some ground to make up, but we're going to start doing that tomorrow. We do also have a Group E, which we need to take a look at here, which we can pull up in just a second. As we see now, Chalkit is the only group team in this group to have not played today. But right now, Thrive are sitting on top of the standings with a 7-round differential off of that 7-0 versus Carnico.
Yeah, that 7-0 is definitely going to give them a bit of a jump compared to everybody else. And we know, I think it was SSG Academy who eked into the playoffs off of a singular round. So it can make the difference. Every single round can really matter, especially whether or not you go into overtime. I mean, the Unks get 3 points compared to a potential 2 or even 1 because they avoided overtime. Every little thing matters, folks, over the course of a season, and it may not really look like it, but you will see the impacts of this later down the line.
Yeah, just the ability to kind of get a good start early on, as you see from teams like Thrive, is going to be a very good thing that they can lean on, is that gives you a little bit more room to have some struggles as you go up against better opponents and kind of have to prove yourself against some of these teams that are going to start off better, but also teams that are going to figure things out, right? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we see ARIAL start to hit a groove later in the season once they get their 5th slot figured out and once they get the IGL situation figured out, because we saw glimpses of that T2 powerhouse that's been a mainstay. They just weren't able to lock things out in time that game. So who knows? We'll have to see, but I'm anticipating pretty powerful ARIAL later on in the season. Hopefully, though, that doesn't come too late.
Yeah, but that is for the future. As for the present, we're done. We have completed the first day of Xenon. You just saw the standings, where these teams lie. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Oh, excuse me. Even in all the way till 11 p.m. Make sure you tune in more tomorrow for more Xenon. We'll see you guys then.